lover's hands. Kiss me, won't you kiss me now? Sleep I will inside your mouth. Don't be us too shy, knowing it's no big surprise that I will wait for you. I will wait for no one but you. Oh, please, lover, lay down. Spend this time with me together. Share this smile. Lover, lay down. Walk with me, walk with you. Hold my hands in your hands. So much we have dreamed. We were so much younger. It's hard to explain that we are stronger now. A million reasons life to deny. Let's toss them away. See you and me, we're laid down of say she and he. By my lover's side, together share this wine. Each other's tears to cry. Together share this wine. It's over, love it, lay down. Say love, say love, say love, say love, say love, and move me. Could I love you 'cause you love me? Could I love you 'cause you love me? Could I love you 'cause you love me? Brentford, what's up?
What up, what up? It's your boy ConcertViz34 back at it again. And I'll be doing some streams here in the off season. Dave Matthews Band is off, but I'm gonna still be here trying to give you some content, give you some interviews. We're gonna talk posters in a couple of weeks, so we'll have a friend of the show come on, John Dix. He'll talk posters. I'm hoping to get some things set up for next week as well. If you would like to be on the show during this off season, talk about DMB, talk about your history with the band, let me know and we'll try to fit you in here. But thank you guys for joining us. That was Lover Lay Down, and very reminiscent of Leroy Moore, but it was not Leroy Moore. That was Branford Marsalis. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, I gave a little bit of a history of how Leroy was inspired by Branford. I'm going to play that right now so you guys can see this. You can follow me on Instagram to get the latest updates. Concert Viz 34, just like this channel, just like my Twitter handle. But let me just play this quick video snippet showing you the history of how Branford inspired Roy. It's your boy Concert Viz 34. We're going to break down how Branford Marsalis is the godfather of soulful sax in rock music and how Leroy Moore learned from Branford Marsalis and was inspired by him. It's your boy. All right. And hey, Richard, good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving. Brian, oh, yeah, I just messaged you on Instagram. Thank you for coming in as well. But yeah, so some of you guys who follow me on Instagram, you've seen this. But just to break this down a little further, we're going to go through. So, 34, we're going to, so this first one right here, just to give you context, this was actually revealed on Dave Matthews Band Radio before it was a permanent station. There was a little blurb about this, and that's how I got this from DMB Radio. Shout out to the folks there. But in 1987, Branford Marsalis plays on Sting's Nothing Like the Sun album. And this was an album that, you know, Leroy listened to learn how to play with Dave. Dave had approached him. Dave wanted him as a partner in whatever musical experience he was about to get on. And obviously it would be the Dave Matthews Band. And Roy had not played with rock music like that, right? He comes from a jazzy, soulful beginning. And there weren't, you know, obviously there's been collaborations. Obviously in the 80s, you had a lot of conscious rock artists and progressive rock artists who would incorporate various cultures and various players from other genres, right? From your Peter Gabriels, if you think about Biko, when you think about Genesis in the Phil Collins area, right? There was a conscious of looking at other cultures, respecting them, and understanding the struggles that music came from. Anyway, Branford Marsalis, from the famous Marsalis family of New Orleans, Louisiana. Look up his brother too, Wynton Marsalis, his father. They're a talented family of jazz musicians. They are royalty in New Orleans. So Leroy Moore listens to Branford playing on a Sting album, and he's like, okay, I could do this. This is dope. He's studying this album front to back. And here, this is the moment when you think about any type of music. I don't consider DMB a full out jam band per se, but at the same time, they play different sets every night. The Grateful Dead inspired DMB and Dave himself to mix up his sets. If you look at that, the Grateful Dead inspired the multi-track recording of DMB music. They learned from the Grateful Dead's audio team, right? So this is a crossroads where the Dead, before they even performed with DMB in the late 90s or mid 90s, they invite Branford Marsalis to come on and play Eyes of the World. This is the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale or Hempstead, New York, depending on, there's a couple of different ways you can call it. It's in Nassau County, New York. I've been to this venue many a times, one for a concert, J. Cole, and a couple other times for hockey games, about 7 or 8 hockey games I've seen here, Flyers, Islanders. But Branford comes on stage and he plays with the band. This is a world showcase of a jazzy sax player playing with this rock type music. Obviously, this is more of a jam band psychedelic vibe, but it was an example that a jazzy sax player from New Orleans could come on with the Grateful Dead and play with them flawlessly. And the Grateful Dead, the Deadheads back in the day were like, yo, this is awesome. And I think someone commented, I don't know if it was on YouTube or Instagram, but they said they were at this show, which is awesome. This was a milestone moment for music. So this has nothing to do with Leroy per se, but this sets the stage for what Leroy Moore would be, because Branford is showing the world, look, I'm a jazz player. I can jam with these folks. There's a lot of things that intersect the worlds of jazz and jam bands and people mixing up sets. And this was a masterpiece. And then we look at Leroy Moore. This is from listener supported at the old Continental Airlines Arena. It eventually became the Izod Center and now is no longer in service. I believe it was knocked down. There's a new mall out there they recreated. But this is right across the street from Giant Stadium where Roy shined at Giant Stadium. This is in the 1998, I believe. Oh, no. Was it 98 or 99? But this is listener supported. Late 90s. And this is a milestone moment for the band, but the rest is history. I mean, he learned from Branford, and then he becomes a big part of the really of the music world. So this is September 11th, 1999, Continental Airlines Arena. But this is Roy doing Roy. And I showed you guys this, right? I showed you guys that this was this is Lover Laid Down from this year, Branford Marsalis. I've been blessed to see him. My first pitch show in 2015, I saw Branford, and you hear echoes of Roy because he is essentially the inspiration for Leroy Moore playing with the Dave Matthews Band. And we are all thankful for Branford. We're all thankful for Roy Moore. And we're thankful for Jeff Coffin. And speaking of sax players, we also want to give some respect to Ben the sax guy, who's a really cool dude. He's out of Brooklyn, New York now, but he's been around. I just posted in the chat, and I'll put it in the comments after this video, the article. I want you guys to read this article, but it says Showtime, how Ben the sax guy stepped in to play with Dave Matthews Band at MSG on a moment's notice. He was called up really quickly. I was actually in the pit for Mohegan Night 2. This is on a Wednesday, right? Or Tuesday? No, Tuesday. It was Monday, Tuesday. So on a Tuesday. And then Wednesday they had a gig. No, they had a day off. And then Thursday they had a gig at what was it? Thursday they had a gig at Foxborough for the DraftKings CEO's wife. And then they had an off. Yeah, so it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No. Oh no, Thursday, 11/11, they had that. So long story short, Jeff got COVID somewhere between Tuesday and Wednesday. He was not present Thursday for that show, for the private event, Gillette Stadium. Does anyone know if Jeff has recovered from COVID? It appears all signs social media support that. He had mild symptoms. He was, as of last week, he was looking to get try to play the sax for the first time. So the fact that he was looking last week to play the saxophone for the first time means this is a respiratory disease or virus. So if he was okay to play that, we I think he's doing better. Just to bring up his Instagram, but he has been posting. He has been posting pretty frequently on Instagram, and I'll show you some of this just to. So this is 2 days ago, right? He's posting food. He's saying Happy Thanksgiving 2 days ago. So he's with his, if he's with his, that's his wife, right? If he's with his wife, that means he's negative. They're not going to let him come back. And yeah, so you saw this. He's promoting his new album. But really, yeah, with Thanksgiving posts, and then he's promoting his some of his music for Black Friday. But yeah, he's good. But anyway, Ben the Sax Guy takes over, and I wanted to play this because the article you'll read it. It'll talk about this. What would you say? But this is a moment from the night one of Madison Square Garden, where Ben the Sax Guy really feels like he was dialed in, and it was just a special moment. Let's listen to it here. So yeah, this is night one, and I was listening back to night one today, coming back from a hockey game. Shout out to the UConn men's ice hockey team. We got a big W today, and I was listening to part of the Sirius XM Friday night stream, MSG night one. Yeah, Mike says he can blow, and that's the thing I love about Ben the Sax Guy. It's not to belittle Jeff, because Jeff is just amazing in his own right, but the way he uses his diaphragm. I was a woodwind player all the way through high school, and I was in an honors band, so I know what it's like to play. I don't know what it's like to be on this stage, but I know what it's like to have to play through music and blow into a woodwind instrument or two, and it takes like your diaphragm to push into that instrument in a certain way. And it brings me back to Leroy Moore with this band. And I never saw Roy live, but just listening to him on the awesome recordings we have, thanks to the folks at the DMB crew and Red Light Management. But listening to that, and then listening to this show on Sirius XM's, in the archives of DMB Radio, he gives me vibes of Leroy Moore. How's it going, Luke? Thanks for coming on. I see you just checked into the chat. Thank you for being on. We're talking about Ben the Sax Guy, and there's a link that I'll put in the comments at the end of this where you guys can actually read this article. I want you guys to read the article. I don't want to put it on here now. I put the heading right here, but I want you guys to take a look at this yourself. But I'm appreciative of Branford. I'm appreciative of Jeff Kaufman. I'm appreciative of Ben the Sax Guy, and I'm always appreciative of Leroy Moore. We've been blessed at the Dave Matthews Band, here, fans of the Dave Matthews Band, no matter when you join this thing, whenever you hopped on the bus, we've had some talented sax players, and we've had some, Ben the Sax Guy had played with Dave and Tim, but he hops on for this MSG show full band and makes some crazy adjustments. Jeff Kaufman played with the band and when he was with the Flecktones and played on first ever performance Jeff had. He played on 41 in 1997 in Hartford, Connecticut, back when there was only one show in Hartford. Luke, we're going to get to the latest tour rumors for DMB 2022. We'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, we've been blessed. Jeff has hopped on short notice when Leroy got into the accident. Jeff gets COVID, and Ben the Sax Guy hops on. And obviously, Leroy Moore is the OG. We've had Branford Marsalis from 2015, 2021, and various parts of in the last 5 to 6 years of this band. He has hopped on and been a guest. And it's just, the sax is so important. I know people say the fiddle is important for this band, and it absolutely distinguishes it from other bands. But the sax, to me, it is the cornerstone of the jazz part of this band. And one of the reasons I love DMB is how jazzy they have been in various portions of this band's history. The jazzy DMB, to me, is the best DMB. The dark DMB and jazzy DMB are the best two types of DMB. And, when I say, hey, people say, why do you like the Dave Matthews Band? I put on that listener supported with Leroy Moore. I put on a song like The Stone, which has that baritone sax, and it has the soprano sax and those crazy changes of going from one sax to another in any given song that whoever's on stage with DMB has to do. So there you go. Ben the Sax Guy, Bradford Marsalis, Leroy Moore, and so many other guests in the woodwind department have hopped on, and there we go. So next, we want to talk about some rumors, and it's still very early. More will come, but what I was told, speaking to people in New York City at Madison Square Garden, reliable sources that have had information before. That's all I'll say. But what I've heard is that there is a potential for a Northeast spring tour. Now, again, it is so early, but this is what I'm hearing is that there's talk. Now, where is this going to be? I've heard dates like Charlottesville, Virginia. They're going to have some sort of Charlottesville, Virginia show or two. They did this in 2016 for the 25th anniversary, right? Obviously, this year for the 30th, things weren't so clear in the spring. They could announce they would be back in the summer, but in the spring of 2021, we still weren't fully there yet to be able to reopen these larger venues for music, right? We were getting tests. I actually was part of this experiment. The NBA playoffs was a test for having full crowds in cities like New York City. I went to game 2 of the first round of the Knicks Hawks series, game 2, home game number 2 of the series. And at the time, went to Madison Square Garden. It was the biggest event indoors in New York City in over a year at that time when I went. So, but this upcoming year, 2022, Charlottesville, Virginia, Albany, New York, Boston, Massachusetts, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. These are the rumored venues that could get some of these spring shows. And keep in mind, one of the key things with the spring tours, they haven't had the spring arena tour in a while. With the way the band is, they like easy transportation, meaning they like to go as short as possible, as close as possible to set up from show to show. This is why you frequently see a lot of Northeastern arena show stops, because you can go from Boston to Philly in a couple of hours. You can go from New York to Boston in about 3 hours. You could go from Philly to Charlottesville. It's going to take a little more of a drive, but once you go south of Philly, there's not much traffic to get to Charlottesville. You go out to the mountains in Western Virginia and to Appalachia, Virginia, and you go to Seaville. So this is still at the early stages, but one of the things you have to realize, maybe at Columbus, Ohio, but they've done Columbus. They did a couple of Michigan stops this year, but the more specific arena one was in Grand Rapids. So they went Columbus to Grand Rapids. Luke says, I wonder if they'll do Cleveland again. They haven't played there since 2002. Yeah, the Q, and I think it's the Rocket Mortgage Arena now. I think it's the Rocket Mortgage took that over. But it used to be the Quicken Loans Arena. And then before that, it was Gund Arena. The Gund family built that. They used to be at the Richfield Coliseum, a little further outside of the city. And they moved. And yeah, so that's it. I know a lot of venue history. That's another side pastime of mine. Venue, stadium history, arena history. But so Cleveland, I think the big thing is Cleveland it's on the I-90 corridor, right? So, but Columbus is easier to get, Columbus is more easier to, I guess it's a gateway. Like when they do they did the Grand Rapids show. Columbus is more of a town that has a couple of arenas as well. Did they play Southern New Hampshire? They played Southern New Hampshire in 2019. And I actually drove past where that arena is on my way to Guilford this year. That was 2018. It was. And I'm pulling this up right now. But I do remember that. Southern New Hampshire. I almost went to that show. This is the show. We'll pull it up here. I almost went to that show because the tickets were so cheap last minute. The tickets were very inexpensive for that show. This is the show. We'll pull it up here. So this 2018 tour, a lot of the seats, the reason, like the whole tour, even Charlottesville, Virginia, let's see if I can zoom in here. Let's get up here. This entire tour, even Columbus, Ohio, the tickets were very cheap because these were cold winter dates These were end of year dates during the holidays, and while Madison Square Garden, had a sellout, they you'll find that a lot of these arenas, even Columbus this year and Columbus that year, they did not have a lot of, you don't get as much of a following in this part of the band's era as you would get, years ago for winter shows or what, the fall winter tour, whatever you want to call it. There's just not as many people going to these shows. People like to go to see DMB outside. Luke says they could do Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Philly, Seville type of thing. The challenge with this is a couple of things. Again, the travel. Chicago is out on an island. It's out on an island as far as, logistically speaking, Chicago is a hub for transportation, for mail, for all sorts of things. But for the DMB, again, if we go to a map, right? Let's pull up a map. Chicago is out on an island for where you're going to play in the normal DMB thing. And then also remember, you have the Chicago Bulls. Typically, you have the Blackhawks and Bulls that could be going in the playoffs. So you have to be cognizant of that. That's why the spring tours are tough. That's why they go to Europe. Or they just do Seville, because Seville, by that time college basketball is over, they're not going to have any events. Chicago and Detroit have the potential for their teams to make the playoffs. So then scheduling well in advance, you don't know. They have loose dates for the playoffs. But look at that. Even look at Chicago to Detroit. It's 4 hours and 30 minutes, right? It's 4 hours and 30 minutes from Chicago to Detroit. And that's why they don't tour as much. They're about working smarter, not harder nowadays. But look at this. If I do Philly, watch this. So if I do Albany, New York, and then we do Philadelphia. So this is 3 hours and 36 minutes. Albany to Philadelphia. But Albany, they could also do, let's just say they could do Long Island. They could do Albany to Boston, right? Boston, Mass. It's again 2 hours. It's under 3 hours. So they could do Albany to Boston. Albany doesn't have a team. Boston has two teams, right? But again, it's close to everything, so they can kind of schedule this based on, there'll be dates reserved for the playoffs and for certain games, but they can work around it. And again, 2 hours and 37 minutes between cities. And if we go Boston to Philly, okay, so this is a little further. This proves my point, but at the same time, this is, they could go Boston, they could go to New York, so they could also do this. Go to the UBS Center in Elmont. This is where the Islanders play. They could go here. That's 3 hours and 24 minutes. Again, under 4 hours. And then we go here to Philly. And also, this is 2 hours from UBS Arena to Philly. We do the Wells Fargo, just to be more exact. So, Mike says, don't forget Providence. Providence, I don't know if did I talk to you, Mike? I talked to someone about Providence somewhere on one of the forums. Because I think you were saying, Mike, did you say on Twitter that you were hoping for Providence? Yeah. Providence, although what I said was Providence is hit or miss. I saw John Mayer at Providence, or in Providence, Rhode Island. I saw him in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was almost like he was too big for the venue, but they played it anyway. And obviously great sight lines, right? More intimate at the Dunkin' Donuts arena. or the nickname is the Dunk, but Providence may not get a show because DMB, definitely DMB. John Mayer and DMB are about the same. Obviously, John doesn't tour as much as a solo act, but he's got his fans. But anyway, DMB is probably not going to do Providence. They're probably going to go to Boston. They could do only way I see them doing. I can't remember who it was, Mike. But the thing is, Providence is kind of they get shows, but like a Dave Matthews Band, they probably won't get. They got a John Mayer. I went to that show. I went to the first two Mayer shows back in 19. Oh, I love it too. Luke says I love when big bands play small arenas. I love it too. Sometimes the crowds and the crowd control isn't as good because they're not used to someone like DMB playing there. But I love it. Like Mohegan Sun is that perfect example. Mohegan Sun is an intimate arena. The upper deck is on top of the lower deck, and really the lower deck doesn't go that far back in seating. It's a phenomenal venue, but I mean they could Providence. It could be a possibility. I think it's unlikely. But you look at this Philly to here, and then they're always going to do Seaville. So what they may do is, let's see, John Paul Jones Arena. This is going to be a little bit more of a hike, but it's the only real long haul that they would have on the tour. They could always do DC. And again, it's contingent upon the availability of arenas, but they could always do DC, right? What is it called now? Is it the Capital? Is it Verizon Center or Capital One? Oh, it's Capital One Arena. Okay. The thing has changed so many times. It was the MCI Center. I think Verizon bought MCI. So this is 2 hours. So they could do a DC. I could see them doing a DC as well. Providence in 2012. I don't think they played Providence in 2012, but they have played Providence. Maybe they have. Let's see. Nope, they played Boston. I went to the Mohegan show. Yeah. So they did not. This is 2012. They did not play Providence in 2012. They did the two shows, but this is funny because they played Away from the World in its entirety, almost by mistake, because they debuted Belly Full and Drunken Soldier at. This is the same place Listener Supported was recorded, East Rutherford, New Jersey. It used to be Continental Airlines Arena, Izod Center. They played the entire Away from the World. Look at that. They played 11 Away from the World and one from each album, which is kind of interesting in some ways because you get a lot. You got a Snow Outside, Space Between Snow Outside two-step. That's a pretty solid 3-song encore. Broken Things to Belly Night, Belly Belly, Seek Up, Kill the Preacher. Very interesting. Oh, you get Mohegan and Providence. So here's how you can distinguish Mohegan and Providence. Mohegan Sun is the best small arena for big acts. Mohegan actually gets more entertainment than Providence because Mohegan is strategically placed between Boston and New York, and it's a resort and casino. There's also hotels. And for those who don't know, Mohegan Sun. There's a couple. There's one in Casey Plaza. It's like out near Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, PA. But this place is the largest casino, I think, on the East Coast at least. This casino is like a city. Like this is the casino, and they have parking garages that connect to the casino. So you don't even have to. Once you're parked, you just walk right into the casino. This place. This is the arena is like right here. Where is it? Right here. This is the arena. This is an arena, and the rest of this is the casino. You got all sorts of you have clubs here, but the reason this is look at where this is located. This is Mohegan Sun Arena. Look at Boston and look at New York. It's halfway between Boston and New York. Yep, and they have great sight lines. The Dunkin' Donuts Center or arena, whatever it's called in Providence, it has some good sight lines, but there's something about how intimate Mohegan Sun is because the Dunk has a floor as big as a hockey rink. Mohegan Sun, the floor is as wide as a basketball court, and then they have seating that goes down and surrounds it. So you have a basketball court, which is much smaller than a hockey rink size. So everything is pushed in. And there's certain venues, like if you go to Phoenix, Arizona, their venue is the same way. It's as big as a basketball court, and everything is pushed in. They can't, to have hockey, the Barclays Center, the same thing. To have hockey, when they had the Coyotes out there years ago, they had to move up one of the seatings behind one of the goals to create the rink. Luke says maybe they should do a West Arena tour for once. No. This is why. It's too much travel. Again, Hartford to New York, Boston to New York, Albany to New York, New York to Philly. These are 2-3 hour drives. Look at the West Coast. And the thing is, the fan base is not on the West Coast. There's transplants in LA. You have your gorgers, right? But they come out for the gorge, right? You have some fans in Seattle, but the majority of the fans are in the Northeast. Some of them are in the Midwest, but the concentration of fans per mile or per capita is the biggest in New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Massachusetts. That's where you have the largest per capita. But the thing is, again, when you have a tour, when they go out west, notice how many days they have off between shows. But if you were to go like from Los Angeles to, even if they did San Francisco, right? Oops. And God knows the gas prices and the cost to have the tour out there is more expensive because of the gas and logistical prices. Look at that. That's 5 hours between cities, right? They could do San Diego if they really wanted to. They have a small arena there. But they would do the Staples Center, or they could go to Anaheim and do the Honda Center. But they would do LA, right? They could do 2 nights in LA and sell it out easily. Then they go to San Francisco. That's 5 hours. And then if you go to San Francisco, like where else are you going to go? San Francisco to Seattle? Another 5 hours, right? Or 12 hours. Look at that. So this is the problem with these West Coast arena tours. They don't have as much of a concentration of fans. Now you could do San Francisco and you can go to Las Vegas, right? But still, look how far it is. And again, they have to drive all the equipment from show to show. You could do in Las Vegas, you have a couple arenas, but you have the Vegas Golden Knights, so you got to work around the playoffs. In LA, this is what I'm saying is that this is why they're not going to do a West Coast tour. This is why they're not going to do a Midwest, right? You could do Las Vegas to Phoenix, right? That's 3 hours, 55 minutes. We could do, let's just go to Phoenix, right? But still, they don't have a following like that in Phoenix. They would probably fill it up because it's something to do in town. But again, 4 hours and 43 minutes. So most of the East Coast stops are 2 hours apart, 3 hours apart at most. The West Coast is big and wide. And again, they know the bread and butter is on the East Coast. West Coast fans who really love DMB will fly to the East Coast. I saw some, I met some people from Oregon, very nice people out that go to the Gorge every year. I was in line with them for night 2 of MSG. I was talking to them about their travels and their history with the band, going to the Gorge in the early days, having some chats about the posters, about they saw the poster go from, just something you could buy anytime during the show. Didn't sell out to now every Gorge, this thing sells out before the openers even come on, sell out. So, so you're saying what? Do Portland, but again, these are still drives. And also to book these venues, to book the road. Here's the thing: Seattle has a hockey team. Portland has a basketball team, right? To get all of them to line up would be a thing. And then the MGM. The MGM's too small for DMB. I know Dave and Tim Fish does it. They would probably want to do the T-Mobile Arena, right? MGM Grand Arena is a little smaller. LA for 2 nights, but it's still even LA than Phoenix. There's not look at this map. This map encompasses, if I go right here, this is about 5 hours going diagonal from the top right to the lower left. It's about 5-6 hours. About 5-6 hours from Baltimore to Boston. Look how many cities you can hit up. And again, the fan base is there. Now, again, if they wanted to do, we're gonna talk about how the band's gonna have to scale back shows. If the band was like 25, if they were like the average age was about 25, 30, they would do both coasts like they used to. The reality is this band is older. So they're gonna hit up this area. Because Portland doesn't get shows, right? I know they would be able to fill up an arena in the Rose Garden or whatever it's called now. I think it's the Moda Center, right? And they could do Chase. They've done Chase Arena in San Francisco. They could do Vegas. Again, people would travel to Vegas, but they like to get for a spring tour. They like these closer drop-offs. And again, you're going to sell them out in the East Coast. In the West Coast, the cost of business is more. Again, gas. I was out there, man, when I was at the Gorge, and I live in Connecticut. Okay, gas is not cheap in Connecticut, but gas is so much more logistically. Things are so much more out west too, and that's the other thing you got to keep in mind. They're all about their profit margins, and that's why there's a reason why this band doesn't. Sorry to my West Coast folks, although I love the Gorge. They hit the Gorge up for 3 nights. This year they did hit Irvine, but really they go to Colorado. Colorado sells very well. It's actually one of the best selling weekends for the band as far as a 2-night stand for tickets. So they hit up Denver, Metropolitan with the Fiddlers. They hit up Denver, right? They hit up the Gorge. Sometimes they'll hit up Bend, Oregon, like they did last year and a couple years ago. Outside of that, there's no, again, the amphitheaters, when you go to the Bay Area, there's not really an amphitheater that's solid out there. And they did 5 points in Anaheim County, right? Irvine. Where's Irvine? There's Irvine. So they did 5 points. Oh, it's in Orange County. Sorry, Orange is south of Anaheim County, right? Or is Anaheim in Orange County? Anyway, it's Orange County. All right. So that's all I'm saying is that logistically, the bread and butter of this band, they know it too. They can track who's buying stuff, who's going where. Bread and butter is the East Coast, the Northeast. And then for the summertime, I'll say this, Deer Creek, right? The greater Indianapolis metro is in Chicago and Alpine. You know, Alpine will travel to Chicago. Alpine fans will travel to Chicago. Chicago fans will travel to Alpine out there in East Troy, right? So you have this Midwest little area, but the Northeast is the number one. And it's shown because they have 1 million shows out here in the Northeast, and all these shows fill up pretty well. If they had 7 or 8 Midwestern shows, it would not fare as well as here, right? Although they have a couple 2-night stands, it would still sell well, but the Northeast is the bread and butter of what this band, as far as per capita, how many DMB fans you run into in the Northeast is crazy. Here's the other thing I want to bring up here, and this is going to be the future of DMB touring. Here's what we have here. We have a couple of things we have to be honest about. First is Dave's voice. Dave's voice sounded phenomenal at the beginning of this year. It still sounded solid towards the end of the year, but this band, we look at this. The band had 43 shows for summer, fall 2021. Right? 9 miscellaneous, they guested, and those are just guests, so those don't really count. And this was really an all-time. This was a year where they played a lot of shows, but they didn't have a fall tour or a spring. Well, I guess it was summer fall, but they didn't have really like a spring tour or really a bunch of spring shows, right? We look at 2019 and we see, look at this. Latin America in fall of 19, 5, 46 in summer, 18 in Europe, right? The miscellaneous we're not going to count, and the guests we're not going to count. That's a lot of count. If we go back to 2000, right? 52 summer, 11 fall, right? That's 62, 63. So that's 63 shows they did in 2000 in their prime as far as their age and everything lining up perfectly. Look at 99, 60 shows, right? Gone are the days they're doing 50, 60 shows. And Dave and Tim did 40 winter shows, right? That's 100 shows in 1999. So obviously this band is not there, right? Dave and Tim almost did as much as full band shows as we had this year. So the reality is this: Carter is also 64 years old. I saw Neil Peart, rest in peace to Neil Peart. I saw Neil Peart when he was in his 60s as well. Neil had much more physical pain and injuries from accidents, and just he had a lot going on. He lost his daughter and his wife within a very short period of time, and just had physical injuries and things. Carter's in a little bit better shape, but that's just life, right? Carter's in great shape for his age, 64 years old. But here's the thing. Carter cannot play. You know, he played 40, you know, he had COVID, but he played some show, you know, he played 30, 30 something shows this year because you take away the shows he missed. But Carter is when shows are done, he said to Matt Norlander, he's just he's got to ice up, right? He's a vet now. He's a veteran in the game, and his body is getting older. So we have Carter's stamina and Carter's energy and what he's able to do. Can't play two-step. Two-step is a challenge for him. So they have to rarely play it. On occasion. It's a sign of respect. If they play two-step, it's a sign of respect. They played it at Railbird, and they played it at Mansfield. The Railbird one, I think, was more of a the fans. A lot of fans were dehydrated the day before. They didn't have ample water. Let's start off with two-step. We have a Mansfield show before that. Hey, we love Mansfield, Massachusetts. Let's close out the main set with two-step, right? We had one with a two-step Oween for fiddlers. Hey, you guys sold well. You guys are a rising venue for this band as far as the popularity of fiddlers. Let's do two-step. And then MSG. Let's do two-step. This is the last weekend. People paid a lot of money for these seats and flew from all across the country, and some people from across the world, Canada, that could get in. Let's give them two-step. But the reality is something has to change. So there's a couple of things people are saying should be done. The first thing people are saying is, hey, they should go back to the DMB 2 sets format. Maybe that'll get Carter because he can play some songs acoustically and do his acoustic little thing, which is less work than the full band. The second thing I've been hearing is, and it's slightly different. Hey, they should play the alternative format. So they played in for some of the shows out on the West Coast. There were a handful of Dave solo. There were a handful of Dave and Tim. And then 95% of the band. And then they had a full band, which was Buddy's piano tech playing the piano. And then Buddy was playing the drums. And Tony Hall came out, and they would have some guest horns from Dumpster Funk. And they had some stuff like that. But, it was slightly different. Some people are saying that. Some people are saying, oh, they should have two sets, like two electric sets, like the Grateful Dead, like Fish, because what that does is it lets Carter play out 50% of the show, get a 45, 30-minute, or I say 20, 30-minute break. And then with that break, recover a little bit, maybe ice up, do what needs to do medically to feel good, or massage, whatever needs to get done, come back on and play the rest of it. So that's another thing that they've said. And here's what I think's gonna happen. As the band continues to age, I don't think it's the 2-set thing. I don't think it's the alternate format. I love the alternate format that we got for the Gorge weekend that I was at for all 3 shows, but I don't think that should be a norm for a full tour. It was cool as a one-off, or it'd be cool to do for a weekend, but I think to have it full-fledged for every single tour show, I don't like that. They did 2 sets in Portugal in 2015, 2 electric sets, right? Because they had let's see, Libsyn. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, Libsyn Portugal. Okay, so they did do it. Okay, so this was a. Okay, this is the only 2 set of this Europe tour. Oh, Mike, you got to go. Thank you for coming. Yeah, thank you. If you got to jump, have a good rest of your evening. Thank you for supporting, man. I don't take it for granted. Thank you, guys. Thank you for everyone who's checking in. If you're watching the replay, thank you as well. But we do have, so we have Libsyn. They have a 2 electric. And DF says, honestly, there's no DMB without Carter. Without him, it's just Dave and Friend show. I was actually shocked at how much energy Carter had this year, considering how hard those songs are to play. I agree 100%. And I think that's the thing. Carter, just like certain players like a Michael Jordan, because I'll say, I don't want to get into the LeBron Jordan thing because I think people are too hard on LeBron. Jordan's the GOAT. But Michael Jordan he doesn't have, Kobe kind of was the same way. Kobe's the closest thing to Jordan as far as the impact. But, certain people like Carter and even Dave's the same way. Some jam bands can do what they do at 75% as far as the energy they emit. They could do a jam like a Fish. They can do a jam and you may not see, like they may not be hitting hard on the strings as hard. They can kind of do it and do it more nonchalant. I think about Humphreys McGee, and that's not a knock on Humphreys. I love them. But Carter only knows how to play the drums smiling and full of energy, crashing and banging and moving around. There's some jam bands that can kind of do what they do, and they're still working very hard. They're very talented. They put the work in, but they're not exhausting as much energy. If someone's feeling sick, if they've had a long tour, it sounds amazing, but that energy they're exerting isn't as much. So I say that to say that Carter just has one gear going all out. He doesn't have a 75% gear. And there is no DMB without Carter. It's Dave and Friends. I agree. Which is why I think if it's a Dave Matthews Band show, Carter should be playing he should be playing drums, his full drum kit for the most of the show, if not all of it. Obviously, you have your Dave solo songs and your E1 spots with Some Devil or Sister, and sometimes Carter's not playing, but he should be playing for most of that show. So what I think the only real solution is they have to cut tour shows for the full band. You may see a little bit more Dave and Tim. You may even see Dave and Friends, and it should be advertised as such, Dave and Friends. Carter's not here, right? We're giving Carter some time. But really the only real the future of the band, if Carter is starting to get strained down is you have DMB shows, and you maybe have, let's say you cut it down to 35 shows a year or 30 shows. That's still a lot. That's still a lot of shows. But you have 30 Dave Matthews Band shows, and then you have some Dave and Tim. Maybe you have some Dave and Friends. That's what I really see the future being of this band at the point whenever Carter says, "Hey, I got to cut back," or Carter may just say, "Look, I can't play anymore. Because I can't play 40 shows a year. If I can't touch everyone across the country, I don't want to do the full thing." And maybe he just hangs it up. I don't know. But I think the most realistic thing is not 2 sets. It's not the alternate format. It's the band cutting them on the shows. I am for this. I am for a set break. If it actually helps Carter, I am for that. Start the show at 7 o'clock instead of 7:30, 7:45. Play an early set. Have a 30-minute set break, and then. But I would want it to be 2 electric sets. I wouldn't really want it. And I loved acoustic versions of songs. But when I look back at my experience in the 2 sets era, my experience going to the alternate format at the Gorge, which I had a ball at, the most memorable moments of the tour were the full band. The band in Mohegan. Mohegan was a great week. I know it was like early week, midweek, but excuse me. I know it was early, midweek, but those shows were phenomenal. Like when I look back at those Mohegan shows, like we had I was in the pit for night 2, and Lie in Our Graves closed out the show. That is rare. And I know Mohegan is MSG is just that premiere weekend for the band. But look at this encore. I'll back you up, Lie in Our Graves. Like this set, your boy didn't go to the bathroom at all. Obviously, I was on the rail until after the show. Like this set was amazing. This was leading up to the Gorge. To MSG. Outside of Bayou, which that's the only one I could think of skipping. Everything else, Space Between maybe, but everything else was solid. Everything else was solid for these shows. Then the first night, you have Boa, So Right, Where Are You Going? Can't Stop, Fun Ways, The Dive In, only 2 of 2. These were some great shows. Some Devil into Warehouse. I didn't like She, but Lying in the Hands of God. But these were my most memorable moments were these full band shows. I love the alternate format. I would never forget that. But yo, we go to MSG, right? The 13th, like this show is what I'm gonna remember. Tripping Billy's opener, Nancy's Warehouse, Stay or Leave, Die Trying, Hands of God, You and May and Shay, You and May and She, and Grace. I kind of, I didn't need none of that. But the song that Jane likes, Water and Wine. Do I have a favorite Dave show I've been to? Yes, I will show you that show. This show is going to be it'll be hard to top this show. This is my favorite show. 6, 7, 13. Just to set the scene, I said this, I think I showed last week. This was the 34th show, and it was a monsoon tropical storm. Now, there's been hurricane force winds that have come through Connecticut in the last 10 to 15 years that I've experienced. We had some hurricane force winds just for a little bit, and then it died down. This show, though, had so much like widespread flooding. I've never seen a tailgate wiped out by a storm like this. It wasn't even a thunderstorm. It was a tropical storm or depression. So they have number 34 on the 12 string. Dave is behind the curtain. Number 34 on the I'm like, wait a minute. Am I hearing this right? This is only my third show. One, two, yeah, this is only my third show ever. This is part of the reason I don't miss Hartford shows. 34 in the JTR. Warehouse in the Squirm, Broken Things. One of 9 Broken Things that year. This is the year after Away from the World comes out. Only played it 9 times. Idea of You, Kill the Preacher, Why I Am, Captain, Belly Belly Nice, Into a Fish Tender, Song That Jane Likes, Lying on Graves, the full band debut of Running Down a Dream, Rooftop, We're Not Done Yet, Dreaming Tree, boom, with Stanley Jordan as a guest. He's a legendary guitar player. Rhyme and Reasons, Every Day, Ants Marching. And as much as I hate Watchtower, I did not care that it closed out the show. Drunken Soldier in the Encore 1 spot. This encore was like 18 minutes of music. Drunken Soldier 9:51 and then Watchtower 8:42. This show, how long was this show? This show was 2 hours and 38 minutes of music. That's not counting the breaks and all that stuff. Yeah, this is my favorite show. This is my favorite show. The Captain, oh man, that was special. The Fish Tender, the Dreaming Tree. And then the next night, just to show you, this was the weekend that changed my DMB fandom. The next night, we had a Seek Up in the Proudest Monkey, Satellite, Don't Drink, 7, Spoon, tour debut, 1 of 4 Spoons. The only time Spoon has been played at the Meadows. Shaking Like a Monkey, The Riff, Gray Street, Mercy, So Right, Jimmy Thing, Gaucho, Best of What's Around, then right to recently, Funny the Way It Is, PNP Rapunzel, Blue Water Partial, a 2-minute and 14-second Blue Water Partial into 2-step. This was a weekend to remember there. But anyway, the point is that the band is going to have to cut back shows. That's the only reality. I know people are like, oh, I want the band to play here. I want the band to play there. The band is going to have to cut back shows. I'm going to wait to see what people are saying because I want to hear if there's any rumors about Alpine coming back. There is a possibility. Just people are saying that. I don't know if it's true or not. But is Alpine going to come back? What's going to happen with the Texas 2-step? Is that coming back at all? I don't like to talk a lot of politics on here, but Dave is not happy with Texas. Obviously, Florida has this stuff, but the way Dave leans politically and some of the legislation Texas has passed, whether you agree, whether you disagree, the reality is Dave is not happy with that. I still could see Texas coming back, Houston and Dallas, but it still could be a question mark. They obviously canceled the Oklahoma shows in Durant, Oklahoma. That was going to be even more intimate than Mohegan Sun. That was almost going to be like the Chelsea at the Cosmopolitan in Vegas, a very intimate venue of a couple thousand people. But we'll have to see what happens with Texas. Some people in the forums, like on Ants March, like, oh, I want to have Austin and Dallas and Houston. I don't see that happening. I see maybe 1 or 2 Texas shows at best if we get Texas back. I don't know. It could happen. It may not, right? But they obviously scraped those shows and they canceled the Oklahoma shows. So we'll see what happens there. Camden's another one people want back. It should come back for next year. And then there is Hartford. Hartford/Connecticut/CT. I am hearing that there's a festival they're trying to do in Southern Connecticut. And they're trying to have it where, you're going to have big names, big rock type acts, big rap acts maybe. But they're trying to do a festival in Southern Connecticut. And there's a rumor that instead of Mohegan, instead of the Meadows, they're going to do this festival. I am very concerned about this rumor, even though I am blessed to have a lot of DMB within 2 to 3 hours of where I live. Let me bring you to, excuse me. Let me bring you to See Here Now in 2019. And here's the thing. Yeah, they canceled the Oklahoma shows because of COVID protocols. But here's the thing. What are they going to do in 2022? Because there's disconnects between what in Oklahoma and Texas, depending on who you are, right? Some bands have played in Texas, some have had to cancel shows or move shows. But the COVID protocols, the Woodlands, which is out just north of Houston, for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour outside of Houston's city center, Jason Isbell couldn't come to an agreement. They said they didn't have enough staffing, they couldn't do it. There were issues with that, but other acts have performed in Texas. But if the venues and the state doesn't want them to comply with COVID protocols, because next year we're probably going to have the same thing, negative test or proof of vax. If you're in a New York City, obviously, if New York City, it's dependent on whether DMB did not tell people they had to have a vaccination card or proof of vaccination to go in. That was New York City, right? So it's contingent upon what happens there. But anyway, this 19 See Here Now. I'm gonna pull up this show because there's been some mixed bags with festivals, right? Railbird had a 2-step opener, which is pretty rare. The rest of it, but Railbird's in Kentucky, and Kentucky's not a DMB hotbed, so they played more of the hits. They did some covers. That's what I expect the band to do because of that. But the concern is, where is it? Asbury Park. This is 2019, and just to give you guys, we're going to pull up the Google Maps again. Right. This show was in New Jersey. It's a couple hours from New York City. It's a couple hours from Camden, New Jersey, where the band plays a lot. It's not too far from Bader Field. Look at this. It's an hour away from Bader Field, where the band played some of its best shows ever on the DMB Caravan. Right? It's not far from Philly, not far from New York. But look at this show. See Here Now. This was in an area of the country where, again, lots of DMB fans. This was the set list for a festival. What would you say? Louisiana Bayou, funny the way it is. Come tomorrow. Anyone seen the Bridge too much? And then You Might Die Trying. A nice little mix-up, but still pretty cookie cutter. Kill the Preacher, Don't Drink the Water. Do you remember? Sledgehammer Every Day, Gray Street Jimmy Thing, the Back in Black interpolation that they were doing partial, Fly Like an Eagle, Crash Into Me, Ants Marching. I would rather have a show at Mohegan for 2 nights or at Hartford for 1 night than this type of festival set. This is a cookie cutter festival set, right? If you're in North Dakota and you get this set, you're happy because you're in North Dakota. You don't get much DMB shows. It's going to be more cookie cutter. But when you're in the heart of New Jersey's coastline, Asbury Park, See Here Now, a lot of famous music has been played here, right? You're not too far from New York, right? Apparently it's snowing in New York. We got some here in Connecticut. It got really cold yesterday, but the snow, whatever snow they said, didn't stick where I am in Connecticut. Other parts of the western part of the state got some. Anyway, This is the point is that this venue in Asbury Park is very close to a lot of DMB hotbeds where there's a lot of like New York City, MSG. So if we look at this show, it's very cookie cutter. And I'm concerned about Hartford because, or Connecticut in general. I'd rather have two Mohegan shows. My here's my preferences for Connecticut. My first preference is would it be two. So let me put this down here. So concert is 34, Connecticut. '22 touring. Option one, I'm gonna put this here. So option one, Mohegan, is two shows. Option two, Hartford Meadows Infinity Theater. It's one show. And then the third one, a festival show in Southern CT. This is my preference. I know some people, they want to be back at Hartford. Screw that. I'd rather get two Mohegan shows again. They were solid. We got 2 nights. I got fed double the portion that I've been getting fed in Connecticut the last half decade, from 15 to 2020. 2021 that changed. I got 2 shows again. From 2012 to 2014, we had these 2-night stands and they were awesome. So I'd rather have Mohegan get 2 shows. If that can't happen, I'd rather have the Xfinity Theater get the 1 show. And the last case would be festival showing. Instead of having no shows, I'd rather have a show than no show. But if the worst case, a festival show in Southern TT. Now, they could do something where they go to Hartford in June, and then they go to this festival in August or whenever it's going to be later in the summer. They could go to Mohegan in June and then go to the festival. I don't think we're going to get a Mohegan 2 show and then Hartford as well. That's kind of a lot, even if they have 2 separate months. If they have Hartford in June and then Mohegan in July, I think we're going to have one or the other. But Mohegan Sun Arena gets 2 shows is the number one thing I would like from this. So these are your early rumors. Again, just to recap this here, we have this possibility of a spring tour: Albany, New York; Boston, Massachusetts; Philadelphia, Pennsylvania; Charlottesville, Virginia. Those are your potential cities. They probably would add in maybe DC, maybe in New York on Long Island at the new UBS Arena. But there is a potential spring tour to, as an album is projected to come out next spring or be announced or promoted next spring/summer. So I wouldn't be shocked if we get a spring tour in the States. Looking at what's going on internationally with COVID, they're probably not going to Europe. So they just go come to the States, come to the Northeast. And again, this is another thing that helps the Northeast. The Northeast has been doing a great job of keeping its COVID numbers down, or when COVID numbers spike, the hospitalizations are down. That's just the reality. At the beginning of the pandemic, the New York City Metro was scary. I have living 2 hours from New York City. People, one of my former teammates got COVID, hockey teammates. He's a nurse in New York City. A family friend, a grandfather and uncle passed from a family friend of mine in literally within a week, right? The morgues, ice trucks were they had these trucks full of ice holding bodies. but everything has flipped now. The positivity rates and all the stuff. So that again, these are things that are going to matter for this tour. Where the West Coast, they've seen some spikes and they've seen some stuff. The South has had some stuff go on where the band's not pleased, and again they had to pull out of Oklahoma. So the spring tour, you're looking at Northeast / Charlottesville, right? They're going to probably dip down to Seville for a show, just because that's their home stomping ground. But it's only one show in what you would consider the South. Everything else in the Northeast / Mid Atlantic. So that's what we have so far. The other thing, again, just to go over a recap, the other thing that we went over was the fact that Carter's getting older, Dave's voice is getting older, this band is getting older. Most probable thing is they're going to have to cut some full band shows, maybe have some more Dave and Tim, some more Dave and Friends. And this, I'm not saying it's next year, but when we look at the next 5 to 10 years of this band, there's probably going to be a reduction in summer touring. From 40 something dates, 40 to 50 dates to 20, 30, 25 to 35 dates, maybe down to 30 dates. Like most major tours are 20 to 30 cities, right? Or 20 to 30 dates in various cities. Sometimes they add, 2 or 3 in a New York City or a LA or San Francisco, depending on the band. So that's what we have so far. I will keep you guys updated. These shows should be going on as long as I'm not busy. I should be doing these on Saturdays, 9:30. But thank you guys for coming on. It's your boy Concert Viz 34. Thank you again for the support. Thank you again, guys, for everyone, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all you guys who have had great conversations with me, some in person. I'm thankful for everyone who supports this channel, and even just people who had conversations during the tour. I had a wonderful time during this tour, just talking to people in line and in the pit and wherever I was. It was great. So that is all I have, but we're going to end you on some music from the Batson sessions. Let's see. All right, here we go.
Gives a wicked ride. Yes, she does. She says I'll make you wanna climb right out yourself. She said to break free, you might have to give up and die. But I was thinking I'd love to get inside you. I'll drink your poison if you fill the car. You make me crazy, baby, don't let up. 'Cause if I'm falling, I don't wanna stop. I give up everything to have your love. I drink your poison if you fill the car. I drink your tears, don't you cry, 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 cry. She is a wicked high. Yes, she is. She goes down so hard she might never come back. She's gonna break free the way she loves to laugh. But I was thinking I'd like to get some of that. Girl, drink your poison if you fill the car. You make me crazy, baby, don't let up. 'Cause if I'm falling, I don't wanna stop. I give up everything to have your love. I drink your poison if you fill the car. I drink your tears. break free. She's gonna break free. She's gonna swear. Because to break free, I've been thinking, don't have to give up July. She said, I drink your poison if you fill the car. You made me crazy, baby, don't let up. Cause if I'm falling, I don't wanna stop. I give up everything I had of your love. I'll drink your poison if you fill the car. I'll drink your tears, don't you cry, 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 cry. But the way she does me, the way she hates and loves me. If you fill the cup, I'll drink you up, baby. I'll drink your poison if you fill the cup. You make me crazy, baby, don't let it up. Cause if I'm falling, I don't wanna stop. I give up everything to have your love. I'll drink your poison if you fill the cup. I'll drink your tears, don't you cry, 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 cry. Gonna break free. She'll never give up and die. Because to break free, you don't have to give up and die. She said